Somewhere in the late centuries before the Common Era, or perhaps several centuries after, the scholars still argue. A man bent over a surface in a royal council chamber and drew a circle. Inside it, another circle. Inside that, another. At the center, a single point. This was not cosmology. This was not art. This was a complete theory of how power moves through the world, written in geometry before it was written in words. The text that contains it is the Kautilya Arthashastra, attributed across centuries to a figure known by three names: Kautilya, his Gotra; Chanakya, his patronymic; and Vishnugupta, the personal name inscribed in the text's own colophon. Whether the full Arthashastra came from one hand or many, Kanglay held it was coherently single-authored, while McLeish and Olivelle identified layers of redaction extending into the 2nd or 3rd century of the Common Era. The intelligence organizing its 15th book is unmistakable in its ferocity. This is a mind that trusted no arrangement of power that could not be drawn. The text opens its 6th book with a definition that anchors everything that follows. The state is Saptanga, 7 limbs; the Swami, the ruler; the Amatya, the ministers; the Janapada, the territory and its people; the Durga, the fortified capital; the Kosa, the treasury; the Danda, the army; and the Mitra, the allies. That last element deserves a slow breath. The Mitra, the ally, is not an afterthought, not a diplomatic nicety. It is a structural limb of state power, as essential as the treasury or the army. Damage one limb, and the others weaken. What this means is that the Arthashastra's theory of foreign relations is not separate from its theory of internal governance. They are one organism. From this foundation, the text asks a question that is geometrically precise. Given any kingdom at the center of a map, how should every surrounding kingdom be classified? The answer is the Raja Mandala, the circle of kings. Mandala in its most basic Sanskrit sense simply means circle, disk, ring. In the Rigveda it names a collection of hymns, a gathering. Here it names a gathering of political realities, arranged spatially. And the governing logic of this spatial arrangement rests on a single, remorseless axiom. Territorial expansion between bordering states is zero-sum. What one gains, the other loses. Therefore, the contiguous neighbor is, by structural necessity, the Ari. Ari is one of those Sanskrit words that arrives in the body before the mind has fully processed it. It comes from Ar, to go against. Kautilya calls the king whose territory touches yours the natural enemy, not because of personal animosity, not because of history, but because of geography. The border itself is the source of conflict. He is careful, though, to qualify this. Every neighboring state is not necessarily an enemy. Geography is only one of 3 determining dimensions. The others are bhavin, inclination, disposition, and the prakritis, the constituent elements of actual state power. A neighbor may be aribhavi, inclined toward enmity; mitrabhavi, inclined toward friendship; or brityabhavi, bound by a relationship of dependence. The Ari designation is always potential. Kautilya uses the word in its structural sense, not as a verdict of character. Now the circles begin to radiate. If the neighbor is the potential enemy, then the neighbor's neighbor, the kingdom one ring further out, sharing a border not with you, but with your enemy, is the natural ally, the Mitra. Mitra is cognate with the Avestan Mithra, the deity of covenant and contract. It means friend, but it also carries the weight of binding agreement. The enemy of my enemy shares my structural interest in containing that enemy. The 2nd ring is alliance. The 3rd ring is the ally's neighbor, who borders your ally as you border your enemy, and so the enmity returns, alternating outward, enemy, ally, enemy, ally. The mandala is not metaphor. It is predictive geometry. Arthashastra 6.2, Sutra 18 names the cascade with the precision of a legal instrument. In Kangl's critical edition, the sutra reads, Tasman mitram arimitram, mitra mitra mitram, arimitra mitram, chanantaryena bhuminam prasadyante. Therefore, ally, enemy's ally, ally's ally, enemy's ally's ally. These are established in succession according to the contiguity of territories. and then it continues to name the specialized positions that complicate the simple alternating rings. Parshnigraha, literally the one who seizes the heel, the rear attacker who strikes from behind when the Vijagishu is already engaged in front. And Akranda, a word that means crying out for help, the rear ally, the one who can be called upon when the Parshnigraha threatens the back. Asara, the helper who moves forward. The mandala generates not just rings of alternating enmity and alliance, but a set of named roles, each with its own tactical meaning. Consider the weight of the Parshnigraha alone. The rear attacker is positioned to strike at the heel at the moment of maximum forward commitment. Any person who has ever tried to repair one strained relationship while another deteriorates behind them knows this geometry not as theory, but as lived arithmetic. A man in his late 40s, estranged from his younger brother for 7 years, finally agrees to meet. He books the flight, he prepares himself emotionally, he is fully committed to the front. The night before he leaves, his teenage daughter tells him she has been struggling with something serious that she has been hiding for months. The rear has seized the heel. He cannot simply redirect his attention. Both claims are legitimate, both require him, and his capacity is not infinite. Kautilya's Parshnigraha is not cruelty, it is the structural condition of anyone who commits resources in one direction. What the Arthashastra offers is not a solution, but a diagnostic. The wise actor anticipates the rear threat before committing fully to the front. The Akranda, the ally who can help from behind, must be identified before the campaign begins, not during it. The full Raja Mandala, when Kautilya counts it out, reaches 12 primary kings. The Vijagishu plus Ari plus Mitra plus their respective allies, with the Madhyama and the Udasina completing the outer structure. 60 types of elemental combinations, and 72 total factors. The Madhyama is the middle king, bordering both Vijagishu and Ari, stronger than both, capable of tipping the balance in either direction. The Udasina sits outside the primary rings entirely, aloof. The word means literally sitting apart, more powerful than all three combined, too distant to be pulled easily into local conflict. Both are swing actors, and the text treats them with careful, almost nervous respect. But the conceptual heart of the mandala is not in its elaborate enumeration. It is in the verses that close the geometry of Book 6, Chapter 2, Sutras 39 and 40, in Kangel's numbering. These few lines are metrically composed, one of approximately 380 verse-form passages Kangel counts within a predominantly prose treatise. They read, Nemim ekantaran rajnaha, kritva chanantaran aran, nabhim atmanam ayachet, neta prakriti mandale. Having made the kings of the rim alternately enemies and allies, the leader should draw himself to the nabhi, the hub, in the circle of constituents. And then, Madhi he upahitaha shatrur, netor mitrasya chabayoha, uchedyaha pidaniova, balavan api jayate. For an enemy placed in the middle becomes the enemy of both the leader and his ally. Even a powerful enemy becomes liable to be destroyed or harassed. Nabhi, the navel, the hub, the still center of a wheel. The Vijagishu is not at the periphery, watching events unfold. He is at the center, drawing the rim into the pattern he has designed. The wheel moves, the hub is still. This is not passivity, it is the stillness of the one who has correctly read every spoke before the wheel begins to turn. What makes the Vijagishu a viable center is not military power alone. Kautilya distributes Shakti into 3 irreducible forms. Mantra Shakti, the power of good counsel and intellectual clarity. Prabhava Shakti, the physical power arising from a prosperous treasury and a strong army. And Utsaha Shakti, the power of morale and energetic will. Each produces a different order of success. A Vijagishu who has Prabhava Shakti but lacks Mantra Shakti will misread the mandala even as he has the resources to act within it. He will mistake structural enmity for personal betrayal, or mistake inherited alliance for permanent loyalty. There is something the text notices here that carries further than its geopolitical frame. Kautilya recognizes 2 kinds of alliance. Sahaja Mitra, the natural ally whose friendship is inherited across generations, and Kritrima Mitra, the cultivated ally whose friendship is specifically built for strategic protection. He treats both as real, but differently. The inherited alliance requires maintenance. It can become complacent. The cultivated alliance is conscious, but contingent. Neither is permanent. The mandala is always in motion. What is true of kingdoms is true of almost every sustained human relationship. The longer it has existed, the easier it is to mistake its history for its present condition. A woman in her mid-30s who has been close to the same friend since college finds herself over the course of a year receiving shorter replies, shorter silences, then no replies at all. She reviews the history. 17 years of it, holidays shared, losses witnessed. A friendship she would have called unconditional. What she cannot see easily, because the history is so long, is that the present condition has changed. The Sahaja Mitra, the inherited alliance, has a structural vulnerability the Kritrima Mitra does not. The assumption of continuity can prevent the maintenance that would actually secure it. Kautilya would not say grieve less. He would say, even the most inherited alliance requires the same attention as a cultivated one. The mandala does not grandfather anyone in. The six-fold policy of Sadgunya, Sandhi, the peace agreement, Vigraha, the decision to engage in conflict, Yana, the march, Asana, the deliberate stillness, Dvaiti Bhava, the dual strategy of maintaining two simultaneous postures, and Samashraya, the seeking of protective shelter. These are not moral preferences. They are instruments, chosen according to the condition of one's own saptanga and the position of the other party in the mandala at this particular moment. The choice among them is not ethical, but diagnostic. The policy that achieves yogakshema, the attainment and preservation of well-being, security, the welfare of the state, is the desirable policy. The one that does not is not desirable. That is Kautilya's entire normative frame, stated almost with impatience at the question, what to carry forward into your actual day. The Raja Mandala offers a single clarifying discipline. Before you act on what someone means, map where they stand. Not their character, not their history with you, not what they owe you, where they stand structurally in relation to what you are trying to protect or build. The person causing you difficulty may not be acting from malice. They may be your parshnigraha simply because you moved forward without checking the rear. The person you have stopped attending to may be your Sahaja Mitra, who required maintenance you forgot to give. The mandala does not generate warmth, but it does generate clarity, and clarity, applied with the three Shaktis intact, especially the first one, the power of good counsel, is the beginning of almost every good decision. The hub holds, the wheel turns around it.